Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Fin Reaper Outdoors. Today I am in the garage getting ready to put my hunting clothes away. I just got back from Missouri. I went up there to do some deer hunting with my daughter, and it's cold up there, so I had to break out the hunting gear while I'm actually explaining to her how to get dressed and what to basically wear, you know, because I got to, of course, provide all her equipment as well. Kind of gave me the idea, you know, there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand, you know, how to dress to stay warm. We all, you know, think we do. But there's a lot of tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that can kind of prolong how long you stay out in the field, and also how much more enjoyable it can be. I don't like to use a heater when I'm hunting. I try to traditionally do a little more old school, where, you know, we sit out there and try not to freeze. Also, when I was in college, I worked at a sporting goods store, and we sold, you know, the best equipment you can get. And guys would come in and they'd buy the best boot that money could buy. They'd come back and they'd say, hey, this boot leaks, it's defective. And we actually sold minnows there, and we take this boot back to the bait tank and dip it in there and be like, no, boot's fine. That is actually your foot sweat. What happens is we buy all this gear, but no one ever tells us how to use it. So think about that. Most things that we buy, it comes with like instructions, whatever, not with gear that we buy to basically keep us warm. So I'm gonna go over a few things, tips and tricks to help you stay warmer when you're outside. We've all watched the survival shows that say, you know, cotton kills. That's the truth. So anything with cotton, we are not going to wear it when we're out trying to stay warm. It retains all moisture, and moisture is basically the enemy. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about is how to stay dry. And when I say dry, I mean that thin layer up against your skin has to be dry. If that gets wet, you're going to get cold no matter what. A lot of people wear these heated coats these days and they still get cold, and that's because they're basically sweating, and once you get wet you're going to get cold. So we're going to start how to keep our feet warm, because that's what a lot of people struggle with. We're going to talk about socks real quick. The most important piece of equipment that money can buy, in my opinion, is a pair of polypropylene socks. This is a screenshot of some polypropylene socks, and they are just that, 100% polypropylene. Their only function is to wick any moisture that your foot produces away from the skin. There's no warmth properties. They are just a moisture wicking property, and they are going to help keep your feet dry. That's the most important thing. You got to keep those feet dry. If the feet get wet, we're going to get cold. For less than $15, you're getting something with a pair of these liner socks that can drastically increase how warm you're going to be able to keep your feet. Now for socks. We could talk all day about socks. There are so many differences with socks. That's why there's a whole aisle at the sporting goods store for socks. There's a lot of technology, and basically I like a sock that has a little bit of everything in it. And to really figure out what is different about a sock, you got to flip it over and look at the ingredient. This here is basically your high-powered wool sock, just going for warmth. Not going to want to be wearing this sock if you're going to be walking very far or anything. It's got, like I said, primarily wool, a little bit of the nylon, acrylic, and the spandex, and that's mainly just to keep the sock from slipping down on your foot. I probably wouldn't wear this sock. I might wear it if I was just like fishing, going to be in the boat, not walking. But I would look for more of a sock like this. I kind of like this sock. It's got a little bit of everything in it. We'll flip it over to the back. We'll see the ingredients. They're going to be 42% wool. Wool's a great insulator. It doesn't have a lot of moisture wicking properties, or actually zero. This one's got the 39% acrylic. That's going to give us some pretty good moisture wicking. Then when we get in the nylon and this polyester and the spandex, that's going to be the elastic. So everything's going to have some elastic. We want that so it doesn't slip down on the foot. So like I said, I like this one. The acrylic's also going to give us some moisture wicking properties, as well as some heat properties as well. This sock is pretty identical to the previous sock. Once we flip it over and we start looking at the ingredients, you're going to see this one is 40% wool, 43% polyester. That's just like the other one with the acrylic. That's going to give us our moisture wicking properties. And then the nylon, the elastic, that's just keeping the sock up on our foot from slipping down. So this is a pretty good sock. It's got half moisture wicking properties, half basically insulation. I hope this gives you a little bit better idea of kind of what you're looking for when you pick out socks. Like I said, that first sock, that's maybe an okay sock if you're just going to be setting, you're not going to be walking very far. It just doesn't have very many moisture wicking properties, so you're going to have to wear a liner sock with that one. These other two socks are kind of what I would prefer a little better. They're not as heavy as a weight sock, but they're going to have those moisture wicking properties. And a lot of times I put those moisture wicking properties above some of the insulation properties. We now know that polypropylene wicks moisture. This is a old piece of Army surplus gear that I used to wear back before I got too fat. Or it shrank, I don't know what happened. But anyway, I would wear this right against my skin because it's 100% polypropylene and it's going to wick all the moisture away. This is, 30 years old piece of equipment. So now we've got the Under Armour and all that fancy stuff. That's what I'm going to wear right next to my skin, is some type of real thin polyester clothing that's going to do nothing but wick moisture. You can still get some, like people used to wear silk and the polypropylenes, but nowadays we got all the fancy name brand pieces of polyester materials that will wick all that moisture away so your stay dry. As far as you heard base layer a lot. Base layer is just the first, it's not the first layer if you're wearing some of the moisture wicking property clothing, which is what you should be doing. But a lot of people don't. They'll just wear their base layer. This is a pair of duofold pants that I've had forever. These are old school insulated underwear. They don't work as good as they used to because they fit tight to my legs anymore. And what happens is the tighter article of clothing fits, the less air is going to get trapped in there. And that's what keeps us warm, is by trapping thin layers of air and heating that air. And that's what keeps us warm. So these aren't as warm as they used to be just because they fit so tight. You want the first layer, like polypropylene, all that kind of stuff, fitting tight, but not basically put on more clothes. This is basically I don't know what this is. It's some kind of fleece synthetic blend that I use for my upper base. Depending on how cold it is, I might wear another fleece jacket. So at this point, we've talked about our socks, our base layer, and now let's get into the outer layer. So we'll start with our feet and go to boots. So boots aren't, I wouldn't say they're not extremely important. I mean, they are. What is more important is how you use. Like I said, in Missouri, an 800 gram boot is absolutely plenty. Anything over that is overkill, and all it's going to happen is your feet are going to sweat. This is a boot that I've had forever. I think this is probably maybe a 600 gram boot. Absolutely plenty for the type of weather that I'm going to be hunting in. Now, if you're up in like North Dakota or somewhere where it's below zero, you're going to probably need a little bit heavier boot. Most of us hunting, in kind of, I wouldn't say normal areas, but areas where we're not going to be out there when it's much colder than 20 degrees or so. You'll be fine with kind of a mid-weight boot and stay dry. That's the main thing. Got to stay dry. So use that polypropylene sock. We put on our other sock and then our boots. But what happens is a lot of people, they use their boots incorrectly. So they'll get dressed in the morning, even if they are wearing a liner sock, they'll put their other warm sock on, then they'll put their boots on, and off they go to driving the truck however long to where they're going to hunt. The problem with that is you're dressed for 20-degree weather, and now you're sitting in the nice warm truck. You're going to sweat. You're not going to realize it, but even if you're taking a couple minute truck ride, you're still going to sweat. What I always do is wear my liner sock to where I'm going to hunt, just wearing a pair of tennis shoes or something. I keep all my gear in this giant box, get my gear out, basically, kind of on the tailgate, and a lot of times I'll stand on my lid for that tote, or I'll have a floor mat or an old rug or something to stand on. Because the last thing I want to do is get my, while I'm putting my boots on, is to step on the ground that might have, it's going to have some moisture in it, whether you think it's dry or not, it's going to have some moisture. That's one of the main things to keep us dry. Like if we're going to the lake fishing, I'll wear, kind of those liner socks, or I might even just wear an old junk sock. But when we get there, I'm putting on different socks because my feet are going to sweat during that ride to the lake or whatever. That is one of the most important things. Another thing that's important is to keep your boots warm. If I keep my boots, I don't keep my boots in this. I keep them in here most of the time. The night before I'm going hunting, I'll take my boots out and actually bring them in the house, so that way they're warm. If I put a warm foot inside a cold boot, it's going to create condensation and my feet are going to get wet. That's what basically creates condensation, is when warm meets cold, no matter what, it's going to make it wet. So I keep my boots warm so that way that doesn't happen. So as we go on to our outer layers, this is what I use. This is an old scent lock suit that I bought years ago from Cabela's. It's Gore-Tex. I think it actually has 200 grams of Thinsulate in it, so it has some insulation in it. It's always worked well for me. I mean, it's not super warm. It's good enough for the conditions that I normally hunt in. So let's move on to hats and gloves. So as far as hats and gloves, what I like, this is a fleece stocking cap that I use. I like this because fleece has a lot of moisture wicking properties in it as well, and it's super warm. As far as gloves, I'll use some of these kind of thinner gloves, especially for my trigger hand. A lot of times with my left hand, which is like my support hand, I might wear a warmer glove. And believe it or not, mittens, I like, you know, a lot of times I'll wear these mittens because mittens are warmer than gloves. I don't know what it is. Something about probably the more air you trap into this. But these are these flip type. A lot of times I'll wear these on, if I am wearing gloves, I'll wear these on my my right hand, so that way my trigger fingers exposed. Another thing I like to do is use hot hands, but use them in a particular way. These are the body warmer hot hands. I don't know if you can see those, but what these are is a big old hot hand, and they're adhesive on one side. And here's one out of the package. So what I always do with this is I'll put it either on my low back or right here, kind of in my chest area. So that way it helps keep my core warm. Think about that. All that blood's coming through my core. I want to heat that up as much as possible so when it goes down to my legs and whatever, it's warm. So I usually like to wear one of these. It helps a lot. Another thing I'll do is I'll get just the hand warmers, and I'll put those, my base layer actually has some pockets, and I'll put those hand warmers right here on my pockets. All that blood's going right down through my femoral artery that's right here. So if I have these hand warmers inside those pockets there, it's going to basically generate heat and warm me up in that area as well. So one thing I did mention as far as the body warmer, you want that on either your base layer or that like Under Armour, whatever type of shirt you're wearing. They cannot go against your skin, but you want them as close to your skin as you can get without them actually touching the skin. So like I said, I'm going to wear that Under Armour shirt, and I'm going to just stick them on that. Another area where people go wrong is they put all this gear on at once. A lot of times I don't put those hand warmers in my pockets until I get to where I'm going. I'll take them out of the bag because the bags are really loud, but I will put them in the pockets of my jacket. I won't put them close to my skin until I get to where I'm going. Because what happens is everyone puts on all their gear all the time. They'll put their coat on, their hats on, gloves, everything, and they'll walk to where they're gonna hunt. And it may only be a few hundred feet or a few hundred yards or whatever, but you're gonna sweat. You've dressed for, let's say, 20-degree weather, and now you're out there, you know, doing some type of exercise, exerting, whether it's just walking or whatever, you're gonna sweat. So what I do is I use a particular backpack. Actually, this is one that my wife bought me 20 some years ago, and it's made for snowboarding actually, so it has these straps for your snowboard. But I use it to put my jacket in. So what I'll do is I'll put my jacket on this pack, and I'll put the straps on, and I'll wear this to wherever I'm gonna hunt and put my jacket on once I get there. So that's key, putting that jacket on. When I'm walking, I don't wear my hat, I don't wear my gloves, nothing. So when I get to where I'm gonna hunt, a lot of times I'll wait like 10 minutes to kind of cool off before I put my gear on, before I put my jacket on. And that's kind of one of the ways I found to prevent myself from sweating. Hopefully if you didn't learn anything else through this video, it's polypropylene socks are the absolute game changer, and we don't want to sweat. So whatever we do when we're out there hunting and fishing, being outdoors or whatever, sweat's the #1 enemy. We want to stay dry, and if we stay dry, we'll stay warm a lot longer. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.